Paris Jackson has reunited with her mother, Debbie Rowe, in a series of rare and deeply personal family photos that are now capturing global attention. And this latest development is far more than just a casual social media update. It's a moment layered with history, emotion, and years of quiet evolution. When Paris shared those intimate snapshots of herself standing beside Debbie, smiling, relaxed, and undeniably connected, she didn't need a long caption to explain their significance. A single word, lately, paired with a subtle heart was enough to spark conversation across the internet. And for those who understand the complicated history between them, that one word carried weight. Because this isn't just about two women posing for a picture. This is about distance. It's about time. It's about choices made decades ago that shaped a childhood unlike any other. It's about grief, growth, identity, and reconciliation. To truly grasp why this reunion feels so meaningful, you have to rewind nearly 3 decades. Paris Michael Catherine Jackson was born on April 3, 1998, into one of the most famous families on the planet. Her father, Michael Jackson, was already a global icon, a once-in-a-generation performer whose name alone defined pop culture. Her mother, Debbie Rowe, was a dermatology nurse who met Michael during his medical treatments. Their relationship moved quickly and unfolded under intense media scrutiny. They married in 1996, welcomed Prince in 1997, then Paris in 1998. But by 1999, the marriage had ended in divorce. And with that divorce came a life-altering decision. Debbie relinquished custody of both Paris and Prince. From that point forward, Paris was primarily raised by her father. Debbie stepped out of the daily picture, and for much of Paris's early life, her mother was not a consistent presence. Instead, Paris grew up in a world carefully curated by Michael Jackson. It was imaginative, whimsical, and protective. There were private tutors, elaborate play spaces, and a constant effort to shield the children from invasive media attention. The Jackson children were famously covered in masks or scarves in public, not as a publicity stunt, but as a protective barrier against cameras. It was unconventional, yes, but Michael believed fiercely in guarding his children's privacy. Inside that world, Paris knew her father as dad, not as the king of pop. She has said in past interviews that at home, he was just a loving, attentive parent, strict at times, playful at others, deeply involved in their upbringing. He cooked for them, he read to them, he emphasized manners and education. For Paris, he was her whole world. Then came June 25, 2009, the day that world shattered. Michael Jackson's sudden death sent shockwaves across the globe. Fans mourned an icon, but Paris lost her father. She was only 11 years old, and when she stood at the podium during his memorial service, her voice trembling as she declared that he had been the best father you could ever imagine. It was one of the most heartbreaking public moments in modern celebrity history. But behind that tearful tribute was a child entering a new chapter of uncertainty. Custody arrangements shifted. Paris and her brothers moved under the guardianship of their grandmother, Catherine Jackson. The world watched their grief unfold in headlines and paparazzi photos. And lingering quietly in the background was a question many had long wondered about. What role, if any, would Debbie Rowe now play? For years prior, Debbie had remained largely out of the spotlight. There were occasional legal headlines, occasional interviews, but she was not actively parenting Paris in the traditional sense. So when Paris began reconnecting with her mother during her teenage years, it was not a simple reunion. It was complicated, layered, emotional. Paris has spoken openly about that complexity. She has acknowledged that she did not grow up with a conventional mother-daughter relationship. There were no childhood memories of daily routines together, no shared school mornings, no typical maternal milestones. Instead, their bond had to be built later, carefully, thoughtfully, almost cautiously. She once described their dynamic as more of a friendship than a traditional parent-child structure. And that makes sense. When you meet a biological parent later in life, you're not picking up where you left off. You're starting somewhere entirely new. There's curiosity, there's awkwardness, there are questions that may or may not be asked. There's a need to understand each other as individuals, not just roles. Over time, it became clear that both Paris and Debbie were willing to do that work, not publicly, not performatively, but privately. And that's what makes these recent photos feel so significant, because they suggest that the foundation they quietly built over the years has grown into something solid. In one of the snapshots, Paris stands beside Debbie in a bold red patterned jacket, her platinum blonde hair framing her face. Debbie smiles gently next to her, dressed casually, relaxed, and at ease. The resemblance between them is undeniable, the same bone structure, the same softness around the eyes. It's the kind of resemblance that makes you pause and think about genetics, about identity, about the parts of ourselves we inherit whether we realize it or not. In another image, they're wearing neutral-toned outfits, standing close together. There's no stiffness, no visible tension, just comfort. The kind of comfort that doesn't happen overnight. And that simplicity is exactly why the photos are powerful. Paris is now 27 years old, an adult who has stepped fully into her own identity. She's pursued modeling, appearing in major fashion campaigns and magazine covers. She's built a music career rooted in alternative and indie influences, deliberately carving out a sound that feels authentic to her rather than chasing mainstream pop comparisons. She's acted in film and television. She's used her platform to advocate for mental health awareness. She has also been transparent about her struggles. Paris has spoken about depression, trauma, and the pressure of living under constant public scrutiny. She has shared that she sought therapy, that she faced dark moments, that healing has been a journey. That honesty has resonated deeply with fans. Rebuilding a relationship with an estranged parent fits into that broader narrative of healing. It requires vulnerability. It requires acknowledging past pain without being consumed by it. It requires maturity, the ability to see a parent as a human being with flaws, rather than as a fixed symbol of absence. Seeing Paris and Debbie now suggests that those difficult conversations may have happened, that understanding replaced resentment, that boundaries were established, that forgiveness, in some form, took place. Fans reacted instantly to the photos, social media filled with messages calling the reunion beautiful, healing, and long overdue. Some expressed surprise, admitting they hadn't realized how far their relationship had progressed. Others shared personal stories of reconnecting with parents after years apart, saying Paris's openness gave them hope. There's something deeply relatable about that. No matter how famous someone is, family dynamics are universal. Estrangement happens, reconciliation happens, time changes people. Debbie Rowe herself has lived a relatively quiet life in recent years. She has largely avoided red carpets and interviews. She faced a breast cancer diagnosis in the 2010s, a serious health battle that reportedly brought Paris closer to her privately. During that time, there were glimpses of support, but nothing overtly public. Which is why this visible reunion feels like a new chapter, rather than a continuation of old speculation. Paris has always been intentional with what she shares. She's not known for constant oversharing or dramatic reveals. When she posts something personal, it tends to carry meaning. That makes this reunion feel deliberate, not accidental, not strategic, just honest. There's also a broader theme here about identity. For most of her life, Paris was defined first and foremost as Michael Jackson's daughter. The world projected expectations onto her, musically, stylistically, even emotionally. But as she's grown older, she's worked hard to define herself on her own terms. Reconnecting with her mother may be part of that reclamation. It's about embracing every piece of who she is, not just the iconic last name, but the quieter genetic threads that tie her to Debbie. And she's not navigating this journey alone. Paris remains close with her brothers, Prince and Biggie. The three siblings have appeared together at public events honoring their father's legacy. They've shown unity through grief anniversaries and family milestones. Strengthening her maternal bond adds another layer to that evolving family dynamic. What makes this moment especially compelling is the absence of drama. There's no scandal, no explosive tell-all interview, no accusations, just a peaceful update. In a media landscape that thrives on conflict, this story stands out because it's about growth. It's about showing that relationships can evolve quietly over time, that healing doesn't need a press release. The body language in the photos says everything. There's ease, familiarity, shared laughter. It doesn't look forced. It doesn't look staged. Paris Jackson's life has been extraordinary in every sense. Fame from birth, public tragedy at 11, scrutiny through adolescence, reinvention in adulthood. Seeing her arrive at what appears to be a place of peace with her mother feels like a milestone. It doesn't rewrite the past, it doesn't erase the years of distance, but it shows forward movement. Family relationships are rarely simple, especially under global attention. They require patience and empathy. They require letting go of old narratives that no longer serve you. Paris and Debbie seem to have done that. As these photos continue circulating, one thing is clear. This reunion isn't about headlines, it's about presence. It's about choosing connection now, regardless of what came before. For fans who have watched Paris grow from a masked child shielding her identity to a confident woman owning her voice, this feels like a full-circle moment. The story of Paris Jackson has always been layered: fairy tale beginnings, heartbreaking loss, artistic reinvention. Now, reconciliation becomes part of that story too. It's a reminder that even complicated family dynamics can soften over time, that healing may be slow, but it's possible. Paris is no longer the grieving girl at a podium. She's an adult shaping her narrative with intention. And by sharing these rare moments with her mother, she's allowing the world to see not just her legacy, but her growth. Where this renewed bond leads is anyone's guess. Perhaps more shared milestones will appear. Perhaps it will remain mostly private. But what matters most is what's happening beyond the camera frame. The conversations, the understanding, the shared experiences being built now. For now, those simple images tell a profound story. A daughter and a mother standing side by side, not defined by the past, but connected in the present. And sometimes that quiet connection speaks louder than any headline ever could. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.